recording. So we're here now with Dean Andre, sound designer, a re-recording mixer, a jack of all trades and master of all trades.
Well, thank you for saying that.
And we're here with the class. The class is behind me. You cannot see everyone, but you can see maybe one or two. They will be asking questions from time to time about what you do. We actually have Michael here, who you worked with on Bucky and the Squirrels, Michael McGuire. So,
how's it going, buddy?
Can you see him?
How are you?
Yeah, I can. Hey, you look good. What's happening, man?
Likewise, not much. Waiting to listen to you.
Hey, well, I'm glad you could make it. But, so where are you right now? I mean, what city, what facility, school, where are we? Like right now? Where are you?
I'm right here.
I know that. You goofy guy.
Yeah, we are at UWM. It's the University of Wisconsin Milwaukee campus. And we're in the film school and the film department in the basement with the students, and
rightly so. We should keep the film students in the basement. That's what I okay, enough with the jokes, I guess.
So, but we're very pleased to have you, and we'll be talking for somewhat more than an hour, and talking about sound design and recording sound both on set and post sound.
Sure.
And how to have a career, as a sound designer. So, would you tell us first just a little bit about it from your side? Who you are. I mean, your credits are outstanding. They're on IMDb. But just kind of introduce yourself and what you do, so that the listening audience and the YouTube audience also knows what you do. Guys in the back, I didn't do this last time, but put your hand up if it's okay to be appear on videotape. That way, awesome. Who's ever showing? And wave.
Yeah, I put my hand. Well, I'm Dean Andre. I was originally born. I was born in Wisconsin, actually, in Marinette, if you guys know where that is, near Green Bay.
Okay.
And lived on a dairy farm for the first 9.5, 10 years of my life. My mother got a bug up her proverbial butt and said, I don't want to do farming anymore, along with teaching. She was a teacher at the time also. And we moved to Hales Corners, if you guys know where that is, the west side, southwest side of fun-filled Milwaukee. And my parents were heavily into music, and they actually gave that gift to me, the gift of music. And I actually started out as an artist, a recording artist. I used to work with Doc Severinsen and Diana Ross years ago when I was 16, 17 years old. And then ended up doing commercials out of Chicago. I did some Oldsmobile spots, Alberto Culver, trying to think what else. Just, let's see, Oldsmobile, I said Oldsmobile. United Airlines, we did some United Airlines stuff. Did that, and while I was in Wisconsin, I actually had a friend who lived in L.A. who was with a record label. She was with Atlantic Records. And my friend sent a tape that I had just made over to her friend in Los Angeles, and these people flew out from California, and before I knew it, I was signed to Atlantic Records. And that led to deals with Philips Records in Japan. I had hit records in Japan as an artist. But, the crazy thing is, life moves on, and ironically enough, I didn't really enjoy the record business. I didn't find a home there. I felt disjointed. But I did find a home in the television business. I did a lot of music for television, a lot of cartoon shows, starting with Fat Albert, and I did the Chipmunks, and oh my gosh, Aladdin, Little Mermaid. I did a lot of music for a lot of different cartoon shows. 450 approximately episodes. And I was also doing a number of films, but very little films, mostly television. A friend of mine called and said, "Hey, I want to book you to do music on a film that I'm directing." And I said, "Oh, that's cool, but do you mind if I hang around with you on set, because I have nothing to do for the next 3 months, and I would love to, if I can just get to know the actors and know the scenes and get to know the script better. I think that would make a better musical score for the picture. And he was totally thrilled with that. Well, not more than 2 days later, I got this light went off in my head, and I had done some sound recording for the cartoon shows, some for Aladdin and Little Mermaid, and I had done a sound design, music editing project with a very young first-time director that I had a lot of faith in. I thought he was a great director, and he went on to do some really major stuff. A guy named Mark Singer. Mark directed Superman and Valkyrie and X-Men. He directed all that. I did his first film, and he made money, and they signed him and kept going. And there's a reason why I don't work with him anymore, but I won't go into that. Anyway, at that same time, so I didn't really have anything to do, and I said to the director, I said, well, do you have anyone to record your sound on set? And he said, no, I was just going to pick up the phone and call the guy I usually hire. And then I said, well, I would love to do your sound, and I'd like to do your post sound, and I would like to do your music that you're hiring me for. And he said to me, hey, welcome, how you doing, man? Raise your hand and make sure that you know that you're going to be recorded on, hey, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Anyway, what was I saying? Okay, so he said I was going to call somebody to do the sound for location sound, acquiring the sound, but I haven't gotten around to it. He said, what do you have in mind? I said, well, I've worked with Disney, and I've worked with Hanna-Barbera and Filmation, and I've done recording in studio. I don't know what the difference would be. It's just acquiring the best sound you can get. And he said, well, do you have? He listed all this gear like a Nagra, which is a reel-to-reel stereo field machine that all sound recorders used back in like 1990, the 90s, all the way up until 95, I think. Well, I was one of the first guys to do all digital, which was very cool. Anyway, I said, no, I don't. I've never used a Nagra, but it's a recording machine. And he said, well, okay, well, what do you need? I said, well, I don't want to do a Nagra. I want to do digital. I want to do all digital. And they said, they asked again what I needed, and this was such a fortuitous thing. They actually wrote me a check for all the gear that I needed, which was, microphones, wirelesses, the recording equipment. At the time, Pro Tools just came out, and they had a 4-track system. That's all they had. I've got a copy of it here somewhere. I'll have to dig it out later during the conversation, show you what it looked like. And you'd have to expand it 4 channels at a time. Well, I mixed sound design, did all the music on a 4-track system. And then I bought they bought actually an 8-track. It was called what was it called? An ADAT. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that. ADAT was a system that ran on VHS tapes, a digital system. Right. It recorded 8 tracks on high-def digital quality VHS tapes. And so I had to bounce tracks. Anyway, that's how I started out, and ironically enough, the film did well. And some of the people on set said, "Oh my God, you're so good!" And they recommended me, and I was cutting edge, and which I still am, thank God. But so that's how I started, and from that one, that was 22 years ago, almost 22 years ago. And since then, I've done 104 pictures. Go figure.
Go figure. Well, I know that when we worked together, the first shot that came off, I thought, "Oh my God, this guy's going to be terrible to work with." No, I'm kidding. You were actually a dream, a charm. It was wonderful. It was.
Well, you know, anybody can record sound, but you have to have a sense of humor about this stuff because sometimes that means more than doing a good job, just having a good time on set. And that's a part of the deal too. I mean, not just acquiring the sound, but you know, being able to communicate with people. I mean, that's
Right.
That's very important. You know, anyone in the film department there. I mean, to be able to do films is one thing, and I know many people who are really good at films, and it's not only important to be that, but you have to be sociably able to communicate with people because it is a people-driven film business, and relationships mean a lot. You know, I have clients that are 15, 20 years in the making, and you know, I've seen them when they've made their first film, and I've seen them when they've made their last, literally, the last films before they're buried. You know, but the whole thing about sound is whether you're doing music or you're doing you know, acquiring sound on set, or taking all that acquired sound and adding it, embellishing it. It really it's all the same. I mean, it's like arranging. It's arranging music where you put like a flute here and an oboe here and horns here and strings, and you surround a piece of film. It's really the same thing as sound design. I mean, the transition between music and sound designing was very simple because there were only certain things you could do, and if you overdid sound design, that's another thing that you got to be real careful about when you're sound designing. And I've run across this a number of times with young directors, especially. Let's say, well, and you can see the footage, and you see like an explosion, and you see somebody running, and you see somebody screaming, and you see, but all at the same time, and they'll say, well, I want to hear all that. And I'm going like, well, I can put it all in, but you're not going to hear all of it. Well, why not? Well, the explosion is too loud. The running you'll never hear, and believe me, that's not important. Running isn't important when there's an explosion. What's important is the dialogue. If there's any dialogue, then you always favor the dialogue over any sound design or music because seriously, that's what drives a film. Is people, what they say, what they're speaking. And I think that's one of the most important things I can lend. You always favor the dialogue. You have to, because if you don't have that, you will never have a story. And if you don't have a story, the film will never go anywhere because people go like, I don't get it. Well, you know, actors have got to say their lines so that people get it. So always favor dialogue over sound effects, over sound design, over music. That's the most important thing. If you can't hear the dialogue, and you know, here's what I do. I'll step out of the room. I should show you a picture of what I'm working on here. See if I can reverse this. Aha! How can I do that? Can I do it this way? Are you there?
We're here, yeah.
Let's see. Oh, okay. Back camera. Let's see. Okay. So here, I don't know if I can back up far enough, but here's. This is the room. There's a keyboard, and I use that for composing, but also for certain sound design things. You can trigger events through MIDI, through sound effects that way. You can do it that way. This is a program called Nuendo. I also use Pro Tools, but I favor Nuendo only because Yamaha and Steinberg Audio are my sponsor. I'm an artist for them, so I use it. But it's also a very elegant program. There's a projector. It's a high-def 3D projection image, which I could bring. I could take this stuff over here. Let's see, I can take this, and then I can bump it over to the right up here, and I can expand this. So I'm actually, this is my last day of working on a film called The Sparrows, and it stars Kevin Sorbo, Chris Atkins, and James Duvall. James was in Independence Day, one of his pictures. You guys probably know Kevin Sorbo was in Hercules or whatever. What was it? What was it? Hercules, I think.
No, yeah, Kevin was Hercules, absolutely, the TV series.
Right. And Chris Atkins was in Blue Lagoon, the lucky guy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So basically, I can move all of the films. This is the end crawl. We have the Bellamy brothers. They did some music on it. I scored it and sound designed and mixed. But so all these computers all link up. All the sound design and everything. Like that's a scene with Robert Duvall.
Not Robert.
So basically, I had to, score all that too. Let me turn this around again here. Hold on. Anyway,
that's nice.
Glad you get to that a little bit later. But first, there's basically. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's probably 10 to 15 different sound elements in a film. First of all, when you're actually filming on set, that's the first element. And when you are filming, you need to acquire the sound the very best way you can.
Can I ask you a question and interrupt your flow here without
Sure.
sidetracking too much? Or we can come back to it later. Do you have any tips or suggestions or secrets or advice to recording good sound on set, and whether or not that includes using a sound blanket to muffle certain things, or whether it means having a good boom person, or what would you advise people regarding capturing good sound?
Well, you hit two on the head there. One specifically is a good boom operator. It's really critical that somebody understands how sound comes out of the human mouth, and it comes out like this little hole, and then it expands. It's like if you could imagine a funnel coming out of your mouth, it actually spans like this, three-dimensionally out like this, right? So one of the most important things is to make sure you get within this. It's called a sweet spot, and that sweet spot is within that cone. If you're booming like right at the top of the guy's head, that sound is already gone, right? So you have to be within that cone, and that cone expands. Okay, we talked about that, but also it depends on the lens. If you're in a wide, super wide lens, like the camera's like far away and the actor's 20 feet away, you're not going to be able to get in close. It's impossible for a boom operator to get in close. So at that point, what you need is a wireless system. If you can get a good wireless system, and there's tons of them out there. You can pay anywhere from like $700-800 for a good Sennheiser system to $3,000, $3,500, $4,000 for a Sony. I found that the Sennheisers work just as well. They don't have the range, but chances are you're never going to have to be like a quarter of a mile away from the set. Usually you're right on set, and you have a good possibility of getting good sound. You also have to know how to tune the wirelesses to make sure that you're away from any frequencies in the area. All of the major brands either have a website you can go to. You type in your zip code, and it'll tell you where the closest to the furthest broadcast signal is, what their wattage is. If they're pumping out like 1 kilohertz or 1 kilowatt, or 1,000 kilowatts or 10,000 kilowatts, and then you judge accordingly. They'll have them either color coded, like green would be a good, either empty, and you can broadcast in that, or to red, where don't even go near it because your reception is going to be terrible. But they all have that. These are things you have to know. Appleton was easy. There were very few heavy frequencies there. It wasn't like LA is. It's nuts, man. It's crazy. There's so many frequencies and they're hot. They're really, really hot. If you're filming downtown LA, forget it, man. There's microwave towers. There's you name it. There's the cell towers. They'll say the cell towers don't interfere, but they do. I mean, it is what it is. So that's it for wirelesses. I mean, I can talk more about that placement of the best place for them in proximity to their mouth and whatnot. If you're doing a go ahead.
Hello, Dean. Or if we were on set, I can call you the Wizard. I was just wondering. I just used the Sony Wireless Lab, and both the frequencies were right. The numbers matched up, but I was getting static, and I recorded it, so I don't know how I can get rid of the static in post. But how do you get rid of that crackling, cringling static on wireless mics?
Okay, well, was it radio frequency static, or was it static from like a bad wire from the microphone down to the pack? The wires
were good. The batteries were all charged. It had plenty of power, and they were the numbers were matched up.
Right.
So I'm not sure where the static was coming from. I didn't know how to get rid of it.
And it's static and not ruffle from.
I mean,
was it a ruffle from the shirt where you had it, or?
No, it was just a constant static.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that's a RF or radio frequency static. That's what you need to do is check your frequency. Okay, you can go to the Sony website, and they should have a frequency meter. I can give you a website to go to for Sennheiser, and I'm not promoting them at all. They're not a sponsor of me or anything, but they make a good. The website's great. Let me get to that. And there's a frequency analyzer. Hold on a second. Okay, let me go to Sennheiser, because you're going to like this. Okay, if you can write this down. Okay, EN-US dot Sennheiser, that's SENNHEISER.com /service-support-frequency, that's FREQUENCY-finder. And if you guys have email, I can email it to you. But basically that will, I don't know what Sony's is, but Sennheiser's is this. And basically you can either type in your city, or you can type in your zip code. And for instance, you're in Milwaukee, so that's 53130, for instance. That's Hales Corners, I know where that is. Okay, and you send it, and it'll tell you all the frequencies that are available, and it'll also tell you the kilowattage of them. For instance, you've got a number of vacant frequencies. If your wireless starts at 470 megahertz and goes all the way up to like 56 megahertz. There's a number of vacant frequencies which you'd like to get on, but if you can't, you can get onto, for instance, there's here's a nice low one here. Here is frequencies 596 to 602, which is WFBN LD. LD is in Rockford, Illinois. So those frequencies from 596 to 602 are really a good place to set your frequency if you can, because they only broadcast at 3.5 kilohertz, and they're 70.9 miles away. So that'll never influence your frequency response between your transmitter and your receiver and your wirelesses. Now, adversely, in Hale's Corners, if you're on 536 to 542 megahertz, which is WCGV-TV, they broadcast 1,000 kilowatts, and it's only 12.75 miles away, which means they're going to bone you. That frequency is going to bone you. So you really got to check your frequency. Do you have the wireless in front of you, or is it
No, we have an equipment room where we check out our equipment, and so I handed it in yesterday.
Okay.
The other day.
I'll guarantee you that's what it was. Also, you might want to go to Sony's website, or if you have the, owner's manual, check the owner's manual. Now, another thing that it could be is there's attenuation, and attenuation is basically volume control out, and it comes out of your transmitter, and it's also the attenuation coming out of your receiver. If your attenuation is too low, you can get a lot of, not static, but just like, kind of like sounds like the ocean. Is that what it sounded like?
Yes.
Ah, okay. So you want to check your attenuation. If your attenuation is too low on the transmission coming out of your pack, that could be a problem. And also coming out of your receiver. A good rule of thumb, if you can do between -10 and -12 coming out of your receiver, and then like -20 dBs coming out of your transmitter. That seems to work pretty good on the Sennheisers. Now everything's different, but it sounds like you have too much noise and not enough signal, which means you're not transmitting hot enough.
So can that be taken out of post, or just have to be do it over?
It depends. How loud is the noise? Is it equal to the voice, or is it louder than the voice?
It's a little lower than the voice.
A little lower. Wow. Well, you can try some of the programs in Pro Tools or Nuendo. There's a number of noise reduction programs you can try. But if it's a wide band, if it's a wide band of frequency, you may be, as they say in every other business, including ours, SOL. It depends.
Because I was thinking of recording it over and having the interviewee look at the screen, and then like all of a sudden watch their lips, and then go in a sound booth or something and re-record it there, and then just add it in later in post.
Yeah, I mean, it's called ADR, automatic dialogue replacement. You can do that. Is it a long interview, or is it short?
It's probably about 3 minutes.
Oh,
It's a short one.
it may not be. Well, it might be okay. Was it a static interview? In other words, was the actor just sitting there in the room?
Yes. Yeah. Just say.
Okay. Rule of thumb: if the equipment is available for you, always double mic the interview or both. The reason is because if one of your sources goes bad, you can always pull on the second one. And I would suggest doing your main source with a hardwire, either Sennheiser or Schoeps or Neumann. I don't know what precisely what you would use in an interview. Sennheiser 416s are great. They're multi-purpose. You can use them. They're very hardy. You can use them in all sorts of weather. They're very good. Schoeps are great. They're like a capsule-based microphone system. They're great. And of course, Neumann is great. You can use even a Shure. but wire them and also boom them. And you can do there's little devices you can get to put it. You have C stands there at school?
Yes.
Okay. You can either tape the mic on a C stand with a boom. You can do it that way, and then adjust it so it's out of the shot, and just a little ahead of so you can put it, like this, in front of the person. Not back. Never put it like in back of the person, because the voice comes out this way. It doesn't come out from the back of their head. I've seen people talk on their ass, but I've never seen. But I've never seen them talk out of the back of their head. Sorry. No, I'm not sorry. We're having a good time, right?
Right.
But if you can double mic a person, it's better. And then put them on separate channels, of course. Did you use Pro Tools, or how did you record it?
I just H4 Zoom.
Okay. H4, I think, they've got XLR ins, right? Is that what they have?
Yeah, it was plugged in XLR.
Yeah. Do they have a phantom power on that? I'm not familiar. I mean, I know people that use them.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if that's on, because you have to check all the settings every time, because when someone else uses it, they change the settings.
Yeah, see, that's problematic, and again, it could be even there. I mean, if everything isn't set just right, and that's why people always ask me, well, can I rent your equipment? And I go no. No, you're not going to rent my equipment, because it's too hard to set up again. And it used to be where you press a button, or you turn a hard switch, and you can see everything. But now, of course, there's menus, and each page there's you have to go down, 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 or up, 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 however you want to go. But it's not so easy. You're like, wow, what the hell's wrong here? And it can be a number of problems. It can be on the recording device. I mean, if your attenuation isn't set up right in the recording device, it could be wrong.
Let me step in.
Thank you. That was very, very good.
It's been very useful and very detailed. Since you were talking about double recording and boom and the lav, and finding the sweet spot, which is in front of the person, the boom operator needs to be able to record without interfering with the performance or the attention of the cast member who's doing the speaking.
Right. Well, yeah, and it's a delicate dance, because the actors got to understand that.
Someone's going
to. They have to understand that there's going to be something in their field of view that's going to be recording them, and the more seasoned actors, they don't care. I work with Eric Roberts, who's done I don't know how many thousands of pictures. Now he just did one. What was it? Some student. He's always doing some crazy pictures. But he's a good friend of mine, and he's a great actor. He'll do Batman, and then he'll do some crazy movie for $1, and he'll work for a lot of money. He loves to act. He loves to be on set, and they're a great family and really nice people. But he doesn't care. He comes to set with his back pockets, and his front pockets already cut, so you can run a wireless through it. He's told, hey, Dino, here, I got it's right here. And goes, yeah, I know he always comes to set prepared for every department. He's great. And the less seasoned actors will not, but they've got to get used to it. But also, you've got to stay out of the view of the camera.
Right.
Okay. And that doesn't mean just the actual physical boom being in, but you have to worry about shadows.
Right. But another part of that, though, is that if you're recording sound and you've got two people talking, finding the sweet spot for each of them, turning the
Yeah, well, yes, you have to. You can't just put a mic there, just sit it there. Unless they're talking like this, you can favor it in the middle like this, but when each one you still have to do this. You have to, because that, if this person's talking over here, it has to be this, and if that's over here, it has to have some movement. You have to get it.
Well, and the reason that I bring this up is because being involved not with students necessarily, but with some low budget or almost no budget productions, frequently, we'll see people who just hand a boom, meaning a broomstick and a microphone, to anyone and go, here, just go record the sound. In other words, they
Yes.
don't necessarily understand that there's a craft and art form and science to what they're doing.
Well, in essence, what you're doing is giving a camera to somebody who's never picked up a camera before. It's that critical. Let me put it this way. Good sound is probably the most important thing in the film, and I'll tell you why. You can have the most beautifully shot film, and you can have the best DP in the world, director of photography in the world. But if the sound is terrible, it's a terrible movie. And in adverse, you can have the biggest piece of crap film, but if the sound is beautiful and it's done and everything is present and gorgeous, the film all of a sudden looks like it's a great film. I don't know what to tell you. It's the truth, and a good director, a good producer will know the value of that. It takes time to learn how to boom. You're basically pulling focus on a person's voice, if you can understand what I'm saying by that. If you're behind the camera, you want to make sure that actor is in focus when you're shooting them. And it's the same with sound. You want to make sure they're in focus. And it requires being able to find that sweet spot. And the only way that a boom operator can find it is through, of course, practice, number one. Number two, having the proper equipment so he or she can hear what they're listening to during the process. Because if they can hear that the voice is a little thin, they can move it to round it out to give it a little more oomph. Because you certainly don't want a voice to be too thin, and that means it's skating. If it's got a lot of high frequencies and no lower frequencies, if it's just sort of hanging up on these frequencies up here rather than the whole spectrum, then what you're doing is you're skating on the edge of that sweet spot. You got to dip it down, either move it forward and get it down, but you've got to get into that cone. If you're not in that cone, it's going to be a real thin, ugly sound.
Well, I think this is extremely valuable. I mean, because getting good on-set sound is important. Then also, you were mentioning other levels, and I also want other people that have questions to ask questions. But proceeding with the fact that there were other levels, I think one of the problems with a lot of low-budget or independent films is that the sound isn't, one, recorded well enough, or two, it's too thin when the final product is released. It's that hollow kind of low-budget sound that you hear in a lot of movies, and they don't have either the wherewithal or the budget or the experience to layer things in that make it sound like, I hate to say it, but a real movie would sound, or like what real life would be.
Right. And I mean, it's not just the boom operator.
Right.
I mean, that's where it starts. That's the beginning of the chain. You need good cabling. I mean, you've got to make sure that your cabling is shielded, because you don't want to pick up any radio stations or TV stations.
Right.
Because your cabling going to the mixer's kit is it's actually an antenna. So anything that's broadcast out there could be picked up if your shielding is not right, or you can get noise. That can be a problem. The mixer has to know what he's doing, he or she is doing. Signal to noise is basically, signal is the human voice. Noise is anything else that you don't want. So you want to make sure that the human voice is always louder than the noise around it. Because that's up to the sound mixer, because he's the final say or she's the final say. They're going to say, well, something's wrong here. Something is wrong here. What's wrong? They have to be able to troubleshoot that. And you can walk on set one day and everything's perfect. I mean, it just works out great. And then the next day, it's like, what's going on here? I'm getting radio frequencies. I don't get it. The grounding it could be the grounding. The power could be off. In other words, there can be bad power on the set or where you're getting the power. And that can throw off all the electronics of your equipment. I mean, the list goes on, and you have to be able to say, well, this is this or this is that. And if you don't know, and I find this will be the death of any sound mixer on set. If you do not immediately talk to somebody about it, whether it's the director or the line producer or the first AD, and if you don't say, hey, I've got a problem, and if you don't say that, and you just continue with that noise and that ugly sound, you'll never work again. Because word gets around very quickly. You've got to turn in a good product. If there's no solution for it, you have got to let them know. I just finished a thing with one of Ron Howard's producers. It was a 2-day shoot, and I've done a lot of work with these guys. And there was a scene where the actress is talking to her mother in downtown LA in a loft. And downtown LA is like being downtown Milwaukee at rush hour, and you're on like I think they were on the third floor, and you're overlooking downtown Milwaukee, for instance, and it's rush hour. There's all the traffic going through, and then General Mitchell Field, there's flights taking off. Right? I'm not kidding you about this. There was LAX was in there, and there was Burbank. There was everything, right? All the
but multiplied by millions and millions and millions compared to Milwaukee.
Well, but
the issues are the same.
But it's still, everything's bouncing around.
Yeah.
There's all these buildings, and the sound is not just being generated. It's being generated, and then it's like bouncing off of this building, then bouncing off of that building in the back, and then by the time it gets to you, it's magnified. It's like going through a megaphone. Oh, it's like this, and it was a long shot. It was like the entire. It was like you could see 25 feet wide. It was a beautiful shot. I mean, the shot was beautiful, and you could see all the way to the ceiling. And there was no place for a boob. And the girl was wearing a T-shirt and a pair of panties, and there was no place for a wire because you could see the wire. It was that thin a material that wherever you put the wire, it would just, you'd see it. You couldn't hide it. It was impossible. There's no way to do it. Short hair, you couldn't put it in her hair. And I walked up to the director and I said, man, I've tried everything, but you know what? You're going to have to ADR this scene. This doesn't happen very often. But I said, here's what you got. I said, I can't get close enough to her to get good audio. I can get her saying her lines, and you'll have a good guide track, but you're going to have to do ADR. And I said, are you going to do any coverage? In other words, coverage is where you jump in and you get a closer, like a one shot of the person's face. Then you could get in there and do it. He says, no, it's a one shot. I went, well, then, he says, okay, thanks, no worries. Because he knew what he had to work with. But if you would say nothing, you would say, no, the sound is great. They'll never call you again. They'd rather hear the truth. People want to hear the truth and what they're up against, rather than somebody saying, "Well, sounds good to me." But,
we had that on a recent production that I had consulted on, where the sound person just recorded and didn't do anything, and when they got all the files back, they went, "Oh, none of these are usable." And I was like, "Well, how did that? What happened?" They said he never said anything. I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
So I mean,
and another problem we have for sound is, and there's a misnomer or a how can I put this? Okay, there are producers, and you'll run across this no matter what department you're in, either sound or camera or gripping or anything. There are producers that want to save money, and that's fine. I can understand that because money's hard to come by, especially in the arts. And so they'll either they'll skimp on every department. But one of the things that is they love to skimp on is they think that if they do a 2-camera shoot or a 3-camera shoot, they'll get the job done quicker And if they get it done quicker, they'll save money. Well, in theory, it works because if you get 2 camera guys, and I ran into this last April, actually, a year ago. The producer, who I love dearly, said that they were going to do a 2-camera shoot, and I said, why? And she said, well, because we're going to save money doing that. I said, well, no, you're not. And she said, why? And I said, because the sound will suffer. And she said, why? And I said, because you're going to do 2 cameras, and one is going to be, and I can guarantee this is what's going to happen. And the DP, he did a close-up, same shot. So it's like, say, scene 3, take scene 3 Apple, or scene 3, okay? And there's 2 cameras, so it's both slated as scene 3. And you've got a close-up on one of the actors. Then you've got a long shot of the entire scene. So you have a master and a close-up. And I said, well, there's no way for me to get good sound on the close-up. Well, why? I said, because I can't get a boom in there, because I can't get any closer to the subject than the long shot. So you have a huge room, and you can't, your mic can't dip into the scene. So now, okay, I'm looking at you, all you guys right now. And if this was my shot, I would only be able to get my boom just right above that light in the middle of the room there, right in the middle of the room on your screen. That's too far away for me to capture any good sound. So what do? You wire them. Well, the best sound doesn't come from a wireless system. It comes from a hardwired, a good microphone with good frequency response, like the Sheps or the Sennheiser or Neumann or whatever. And you're screwed. And then you would think that if there are 2 people talking, again, you have 2 people like this, right? You'd think that there'd be a camera over this guy's shoulder, then a camera over this guy's shoulder, and then you could make that work. You could do this, but they never did that. They always did a long shot from over here and a close up of here, just one person. But like you're screwing the sound. Well, it costed them what they would have saved to fix it, the sound. I said, don't ever do this again. And in addition to that, I'll even go a step further. And she said, well, I said, and another reason you shouldn't do this with 2 cameras is because you have to light for two different shots at the same time. And now you're getting, you have to light each person, you have to put extra light in there. And it makes the scene really flat and ugly. Like right now, I prefer the lighting here because it's, I mean, it's like, there's shadows. I mean, how cool is that? Nothing is overlit or nothing is like burnt out. And they had that problem. They never did that again. But a lot of young filmmakers will say, let's do 2 or 3 cameras and we'll get done quicker. No. It might be okay for an action shot where you're doing like guys getting thrown down, you're only going to use like 12 frames or something, whatever, but it's not good for a whole scene where they're talking. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, it makes I appreciate you saying that, because it makes a lot of sense when you consider that in the olden days, when the camera was far less mobile, and you had the light for each setup, and it took that time, but you got the lighting right, you got the camera in position, and then you shot it.
Right.
That evolved. Because the equipment had its own constraints too, but it evolved out of necessity, so that today, if you light a scene and then put 2 or 3 cameras there, not everything is lit as it would have been when you took the care to actually go ahead and do that. So
yeah, let's put it this way: you have an actress and she's really beautiful, but there's one angle on her that doesn't look good. Everyone's got an angle on their face that doesn't look good, or a part of their body. Well, if you like that bad side because you have to, all of a sudden the actors don't look good. You want them to look the best they can, and you want to make them look as interesting. Lighting has a lot to do with the feel of a film. I mean,
absolutely.
If you have to light the whole film because It's stupid. But anyway, so I mean, that's one. There's so many. It's complicated in that it starts to have a ripple effect. If you try to save money, you'll end up not making it because it looks like a crappy film, and it'll sound like a crappy film. And then what do? Then you have to hire somebody to fix it. I get more calls from people wanting me to fix their films. I'm going like, wow, why didn't you do it right the first time? I mean, I'll be happy to help you out.
More business.
Because a lot of these people are really, really very creative, but they just never, they don't know what to do.
But ultimately, that fix it and post mentality isn't actually saving them money, and it could cost them more.
No, it is not saving them money. And with the advent of digital recording, and it's so cheap to record on and on and on. Last year I did a post job, and they delivered the production audio to me. It's happened twice. I won't mention the films. They delivered the production audio to me to edit and sound design, and I did the whole thing, even composed. And on set, and I know because I did the location work, I recorded sometimes up to 7 tracks per scene. I would have like 6 wirelesses and a boom, and I had these scenes like 9 Ways to Sunday. Everyone would have their own track at this, right? And when they delivered the OMF, which is open media format file, and you basically import that into either Pro Tools or Nuendo, they'll all accept it. And the editor should have gotten all of these tracks, right? But when they exported it to me, they only gave me 1 or 2 tracks. I'm going like, where are the rest of the tracks? Well, we don't know. This is all we got. I mean, that can't be. I've got the masters. I have the masters for the track right here. I've got all 8 tracks or 7 tracks. Where are they? We don't know. We never got them. I said, okay. Well, do you have an EDL editor's decision list, which basically is a list of numbers that connects the original audio to the original video or footage? And if you have an EDL list, you can rebuild this. You can actually go back in your footage and rebuild everything, right? They didn't have that. So I didn't even know what take it was. I knew what scene. It was like scene 5. I basically had to do the entire film over again. And not only did these people do like scene 5 Apple take 4, for instance, they had 4 takes of scene 5 Apple. But within those takes, they had another 3 or 4 takes, so they wouldn't cut. So you had 3 or 4 takes. So now you're talking, and because I didn't know where it came from, I had no footage number. I had to actually hunt and peck for every piece of sound for the film from scratch, and it took me 4 months. And it should have not taken me any time at all. It should have just unfolded into what I had given them originally. 4 months out of my life to fix their film.
Wow.
So now you've acquired the sound, and if you don't, from that point, that's called dailies, and that's where you marry the sound to the picture. I don't know if you guys do that or if you record directly onto the camera. If you can, I wouldn't suggest recording directly onto the camera. It's a bad practice, and it takes more time, and you should, at the very least, you should have your master in a recorder separate from the camera that you can always go back to have just one source, and it being the camera. Especially Reds, they have the Dragons now have little tiny, little bitty mini jacks the size of where I didn't have one really. Well, they're like the plug you plug into your iPhone to hear your headphones. That's what they have for the audio inputs. It's stupid. You need either an XLR or something that's robust enough not to get janked around. I call it janky, but anyway, it's important to get to acquire that sound and do it right, and then from that point, every step along the way, if it's not transferred properly, you're going to have problems. So you want a good DIT. Do you guys work with DITs there, where you'll do a digital imaging technician?
For like production cloud.
But basically, they take the
They
footage.
have, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So you take the footage and you dump it into the computer and you log it and all that stuff. That's really important to do. Really important. It's probably one of the most important things on set, and I've seen people give it to people who've never done anything before. You know how to work a computer? Yeah. Well, it's dangerous.
I was on a film where a director gave it to his wife. She'd never done it. She just, she was computer savvy. He said, "Here, go do these."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and they got what they paid for.
Yeah. You can. I did 6 years ago. I did a TV pilot for NBC, and they did the same thing. I don't know why they did this. They lost the last 2 days of their shoot.
Oh.
And then they had to go back, and NBC had to pick up the tab for that. And it was, the whole crew, the cast. I mean, it was like,
Right.
and that wasn't cheap.
Well, but it's also fair to say that if you have a problem, whether it's in your set sound or somewhere along the line, it's most likely going to compound. It's not going to just disappear.
You're absolutely correct by that. Absolutely correct. It doesn't get any better. It just doesn't get any better. So you want to make sure you acquire the very best of everything. The sound, your imaging, your actors have got to be right. Yeah, you have to make sure the continuity is proper. I mean, we're going into a lot of different departments here, but it's all compounded, and everyone has to be at the top of their game. And don't get me wrong. I mean, there's many people who have worked on set that never worked before, and they're really good. They just have let's put it this way: if there are people who have a propensity to do well in certain businesses, like I would love to be a rocket scientist or a brain surgeon, but I don't think I should do that. I probably could kill somebody, but for what I do, I'm very good at it because I just have a knack for it. And there's a lot of different departments in the film industry. So if one doesn't work for you, I can guarantee you there's about 20 or 30 other positions that would probably work for you. One or two of them might work. Anything audio with me works. From music to on set to post. That seems to be what I do best. I'm dabbling in producing a little bit now, but on a TV series for Fox, but it's very limited. I'm not doing much. I'm basically putting people. Well, it's producing. I'm putting some people together for the shoot, but not enough. I wouldn't consider myself a producer, but they are. So I guess it's okay. So once you then so we really touched a lot on set. Now here let me now you can use a zoom, and I like the zoom. It's a good, very inexpensive piece of gear. How much are those? The zooms. You know how much they cost?
Not off the top of my head. Anyone buy one recently?
I think like probably about 150 for a low end.
Like 150 for a low end.
150 to 3
I mean, I've used them. I've used them, but I've never bought one.
Around Christmas they're like.
What?
Around Christmas they're like 200.
Yeah.
A row of Christmas tree lights? Is that what they cost?
No.
Let me see here.
What did you say that it went up during Christmas?
No, I said around Christmas they're around like $200,
Oh.
maybe less.
Cool. I just want to give you a heads up. We've got about 20 some minutes left.
Oh, gosh, wow, time should fly.
So I do want them to be able to ask questions too, and I also want to. I know you said there were other elements. So from recording, like where you're layering post sound and scoring and effects tracks and things like that. We may have to revisit this at another time, but there's a lot of area here that you've covered, and it's very, very cool.
Well, there is a lot to cover, and you could probably just take boom operating and spend an hour and a half or more on that.
Of course.
it's all really critical. But the surefire way to find out is to just jump in and do it. And I couldn't see who was asking the question about the hiss on the recording. But hey, sometimes you just got to play with it until it's right. I would check your settings on your input and output, because it sounds like you might have a low output from your transmitter. I wish I was there. We could probably solve that within about 3 minutes.
Probably would. Well, next time you're back in Wisconsin, we'll meet for coffee.
I actually might be back next month.
Really?
For, like about 10 days. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
What time? When is school out there? Is it June?
It ends the 7th of May, but there's nothing precluding anyone from meeting after school closes and at a coffee shop and talking or something. Or
Absolutely. What's so? Are you guys? Chicago's close. You've got a lot of different places that are filming heavy right now.
Yeah,
New
Chicago.
York.
Yeah.
Holy cow! New York is like booming. But it's that's pretty nasty over there. For me, anyway.
So let me see if there are other questions too. While we're at who has questions that they'd like to ask. Alex has one. Go ahead, Alex.
Hey, Alex.
Hi. Nice to meet you. Thanks for talking to us today.
Oh yeah, my pleasure.
As far as like working professionally in industry goes, what advice would you have? Say for example, if I wanted to join like a labor union. From what I understand, there's the Motion Picture Editors Guild that works in I guess like post-production aspects. What was the first thing I do to like, I don't know if you're a part of it or if you know anyone that's in it, but like, what would I do to like, what's my first step? What to join, like, as far as like experience goes, what's required and how competitive is it?
If you want to be a member of Local 699, I think it is, which is the Sound Mixers Union, I always get the numbers confused because I'm a member or a signatory to the unions. If you want to be a sound mixer, you need 100 days of sound mixing before you become a member of the union.
Okay.
And that's not difficult to do, and it doesn't have to be a union job. It could be a non-union job, but then there's certain prerequisites you need. You need letters from the producer and or the director stating that you did work on this project. And you're going to have to charge them, even if it's $1. You need to show that you got paid for it. So you have to save your check stubs. And again, it doesn't have to be. It's just show that you were valued enough to be hired. And again, it could be just $1.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be union scale. So, but you need 100 days of that, and then there's other, like if you want to do post sound mixing, that's a different union. And I don't, it's funny because I haven't joined that union because I do stuff, I have my own studio, and I charge both for my equipment, studio time and my time. So I really make more than if I was just a mixer. I don't really care about that. And I mean, and I do stuff for Ron Howard and whatnot, and I'll mix it out of my home, out of my studio here, and then we'll take it over to Sony or something like that and mix it with. I've got a number of really dear friends, Deb Adair I work with, she's great, Sherry Klein. And I'll tell you something, I like working with women mixers, and I'll tell you why. They have a different ear than a mixer. It works different. They're more critical of high frequencies. If there's a high frequency, they'll notice it and they'll say, "Oh my God!" And I'll say, "What? I don't hear it. I hear it, but it doesn't bother me." Well, they'll hear a high frequency. It'll just drive them crazy. I don't know if it's like the woman shrill thing, but men and women work differently. So I like working with Sherry and I like Deb. They're great. And they're very honest about it. Hey, so man, you got to cut that frequency down. Some women are gonna hate that. I go, okay, and that helps. It's co-working. But yeah, there's a lot of different unions, and they all require a certain amount of days. But apprenticeship is welcome, and you can be paid for it. It doesn't have to be for free. I don't like to not pay people. I think it's unfair. I think if someone's putting in a day's work, it might not be as experienced as another person, but they still deserve to be paid for that, for work they did, unless it holds up production. Then you gotta go, well, please. There's a fine line there, but if someone's pulling their weight, they deserve to get paid, even if it's just a little bit. And there are minimums. I mean, there is a minimum wage that you have to adhere to. I mean, and it's funny because there are people out here in California that'll say, "Well, hey, we need somebody to work for free," and I'm going like, "Well, you wouldn't ask somebody to do that at McDonald's." You know, you need to make money, and it is a business. That's what it is. So I can highly recommend the unions. I mean, I like them. I hate them. It's sort of a bittersweet thing because. I don't know. I hate them and I like them.
We'll go with that.
Good?
You sure? I want to because we've got about 15 minutes. I want to make sure that you have any other questions. All your questions are answered. Is that a question?
Yeah, I guess my name's Ryan. I guess I would wonder,
Hi, Ryan.
like, do you need a lot of your like, do you show up to set with sound equipment, or do you generally work on sets that like rent sound equipment? And if so, what if you do buy it? What do you use?
I've always bought my own equipment, and the reason is I can. Okay, if you show up as a mixer, it's really not enough. You have to have your own equipment, and this goes even for the camera department too. Most camera guys have their own equipment now. It's or they know somebody who does, or they get deals, or they cut deals, or whatnot. But it's the easiest way to assure yourself work is if you show up with your own equipment. The reason is people don't want to have to rent stuff. They want to get a deal. And if you can come in with your own equipment and even save them 10% from what they would be paying to rent it, they're going to hire you. So just remember that. If you, there are people who ask me to show up with their equipment there, and I go like, no. I mean, if it's there, it's nice, but I may or may not use it. So that's not going to change or stop me from bringing my stuff, because I don't know what shape it's in. It could be brutalized. You're working you're at a film school. I'm sure sometimes you go to the checkout cage, or I don't know what they call it there, but I've done some guest lecturing at UCLA, and they've got a cage there, and their stuff is in pretty good shape, but sometimes you get a piece of gear, the mic isn't working right, and they've dropped it, or I know what my gear is like. Now, again, what I like to buy is I like to buy equipment that does the very best job for the least amount of money, because that's just good business. There are other people who say, I want the very best gear, and I don't care what the cost is. Well, you can get just as good. You can get just as good sound quality from a Sennheiser wireless system as you can from like a Sony or one of the other companies that charge $2,000 or $3,000 per system. But you have to know how to use it. It's like anything else. If you've got great gear but you don't know how to use it, then you're still a hack. So, I ran across a lot of people who said, "Oh, I've got Pro Tools." Well, that doesn't mean anything if you don't know how to use it.
Yeah, most of the software on my computer I don't know how to use.
Well,
I'm not putting myself out as a computer technician, but what I'm saying is there's
Right.
lots of things that I have a little bit of experience in, but
Right.
not enough to actually be meaningful. And so when you're looking to get hired, you need to have the expertise to back up your claims.
And again, if you're using someone else's gear and you're not familiar with it, it can make you look bad.
That's a good point.
Because
Well,
all of a sudden, it doesn't sound good. So what are you going to do? I would always have your own gear if you can, have it on hand, and make sure that you know how to use it and how to get the best signal out of it, the best recording quality out of it. That way, you know what you're up against. You're not going to walk on set and be like, I don't know what's going to happen because I don't know what kind of gear this is. And do you really have time to read all those owner manuals? I don't.
Well, and another point that you made, I think, early on in the conversation was just the presets, that you don't want to have to go back, if somebody else has adjusted the equipment and now you've got to come and fiddle with it or go through multiple menus and looking at things and trying.
Right.
So it's just best to have your own equipment. That makes
Yeah,
makes
you
good sense.
need a, and even if you have your own equipment, Ryan, you still need to make sure that, like, the day before you go on set, that it's working right.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, even if you're away from it for a week where you haven't used it, it may be all right, but I forget stuff all the time. Oh yeah, I forgot to turn this switch, or I forgot to plug this in, or
No,
oh God, I forgot a cable.
it's an excellent point.
You got to know you should always have at least a day of prep to make sure everything's working right. And
That's a sign of a pro. That's a good approach. We have literally 10 minutes.
okay,
So in that 10 minutes, could you talk a bit, and it obviously would be a bit, about post sound and getting the best post sound from the recorded sound that you got? What, in terms of layering your tracks or making it sound fuller than just the, you're adding effects and you're adding
right.
Foley and you're adding dialogue and.
I'm going to show you a picture of. Okay, this is a picture of a film, the sound, and I'm going to zoom in. Oops. That's zooming out. That shows you all. This is the picture up here. This black area, right up here. That's the footage, and this tracks 1 through 8 were the dialogue. Now let me zoom in. So we have all of these cuts between the dialogue. Let's see what we have here. I'm just going to solo these. Okay, so this is what we have.
I fell in love with you. It was because of your soul. Because of your heart. Your determination. And that is why I know everything's going to be okay.
So then after that, I add the sound of a vehicle. And I'll do this very briefly. I can get into it. Anytime you want to do this again, I'd be happy to help. So basically, that's the dialogue. And then I added this ambience right here, which is, and that's just the sound of the vehicle, right? So you have that laying underneath it. And then I added music. Let me get that here. Hold on. Unmuted. So, and there's more to it, but I'm just going to do this briefly for you. So it's coming out of this scene where she's talking, and then it goes into.
I'm here for you.
The music is.
Talk to me. Let me understand it.
And see that's. So you got the music. You got the music playing right here. That's a mute. That's just the music playing.
I can't wait for family. I can't get a job.
And then there's a part here where they get into an accident, and it's really they're like talking. It's so pretty.
Now I need you to pull the tongue over and give me the keys so he can get back. Get back.
Okay, that's just the music, right? And then, whoops, hello.
Is that a poor band process shot?
Yeah, no, they were actually in the car.
Oh, okay.
And at a stop sign, which is
Oh, okay.
stupid. But anyway, so here you have them screaming. She's going, Hector. And basically you've got this.
No, I need you to put the tongue over and give me the keys so he will get back over here.
You got that, right? And then I added the sound of the crash, which is this stuff right over here. See here. Right here. So after I undo this, you'll hear everything.
No, I need you to put the tongue over and give me the keys so he will get back over here.
And then all of those, like that sound of that siren, you can't hear it because you're only hearing in mono. But it's actually the siren goes through the surrounds. So the siren appears as if it's going around you, in the back of you, like so it's moving around. Also, there was a scene here where the kids are playing. And all that exterior sound is added to all the crickets. This is what was originally. It's.
You're dead. Check again.
What?
It's them playing a video game, but there is no sound because there was no video game, right? So I had to create that.
All right. Have fun with that.
Aren't you going home? You're dead.
Check again.
And the problem, one of the problems I had was, well, I probably could have used. You think, well, let me just take a soundbite from, like, I don't know, any one of the games you want to play, WoW or whatever. You could have done that, but then that's copyright infringement. You can't do that. So you have to create all of these sound effects from scratch. So that took me, 3 hours to just create the sound of a video game that never has been ever played. But it had to be something unique. Otherwise, we would have been in trouble.
So you're layering sound, you're recording sound, you're creating sound, and do you do your own Foley at times too, or is that another department?
Yeah, I do my own. Yeah, and that's I studied drums as a kid. I played drums, and I actually used to love the drums. I loved them. And what it did was it gave me a really good sense of rhythm. So if I look at a scene and I see how a person's walking, and nobody ever walks just like straight. They just go tick, 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 tick. They have a different cadence, or they might stumble or what. And I happen to be good at that. I was a dancer, so all this stuff kind of like fell into place where I could do this. Of course, the older I get, the less I could dance. but I'm still doing okay. But a good Foley artist, there's a point in the process too. I really don't have time to show you, but where it's called a foreign M&E, which stands for Foreign Music and Effects Track. And basically what you have to do is you have to extract all of the dialogue, and then you have to replace all of the Foley, if someone picks up a pencil and they're clicking it, you have to replace all. You have to replace all the footsteps. Stuff that's covered up by dialogue, you have to replace. And it's that's my least favorite thing to do, but it has to be done. It's deliverables. You've got to deliver to the distributor.
How about this? And I guess I'll catch you on the air as opposed to in a private conversation. But I'll call you also in a little bit from the car or whatever, so that we can catch up. But how about you and I come back? It won't be in the classroom necessarily, but you and I can come back and we can record one of these privately. But we can put it up as part 2.
Sure.
When you have time.
Yeah.
And then
we can do that.
And then we
and
can.
It's of course they're always welcome. We've got a great group of people here. This is great. Any young ladies in the group, because that's unusual if there are.
No, there are.
Oh, that's great. Congratulations on that.
And one is missing today, but yeah.
Because usually it's guys, and I actually And again, I'll reiterate to the girls, it's a good business for you too because you have a different way of listening than guys do, and both are critical in a final mix of a film because what a guy doesn't catch, the girl will catch, and what the girl doesn't catch, the guy will catch. And it's just the way our ears are set up to work. So there's great value in that. And again, some of the better pictures out there, they'll have a team of 2 people, and they usually have a man and a woman mixing.
Oh, that's very cool. It may also be the way the brain is wired. I mean, we the way women may pay attention to more tonal qualities than men typically do. We're the people who go, "I said I love you," and not realizing that how we say it, huh?
And we have to remember that we're not selling a film or a television series just to men or just to women. We're selling it to to the human species, and we want to make sure that. And there's a whole psychological thing behind that too. So this is something that we could talk about forever about how we all interact. Vive la différence, as they say in France. And people who don't realize that are missing out on half of the quality that they could achieve if they just worked as teams like that. So I'm a big proponent of that, and I've always used that. I mean, there are times I couldn't get my 2 favorite ladies to help out, but look up Deb Adair, Debadair. She's been up for a couple Academy Awards. She's great. I think she actually won one year, but she's very good, very pleasant to work with. She's great. And Sherry Klein's been mixing TV for 35 years. She's great.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. We're going to have to say goodbye because the film that I'm making of our conversation also has to process, and I have to allow for enough time so that it processes and saves. But you have been wonderful. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. When you come back, let us know, and I'll let the students know.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And
I'd love we get together and
make a movie.
That'd be great. There's some nice bistros along the river there downtown. I know, right? It's nice coffee shops there now.
That's right, there are. So that would be awesome. In the meantime, thank you kindly. Anybody have anything they want to add?
Thanks, everybody.
All right, cool. We're all good. So
It was a pleasure.
I'll talk to you in a little while, but thank you kindly, Dean, and have a great rest of the day.
You too, everybody. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
All right.